of how stock market works. You buy a stock at 100, you sell at 110, you take a 10 rupees profit, and that is a very fundamental understanding of stock market that people carry. But today we are going to dive into something which is a part of stock market but isn't stocks per se. So let me give an analogy to the movie called Inception. Okay, so in Inception you go from a dream to a dream to a dream, right? And now whatever I'm going to say might be uh, haywire here, but all these points will connect in the end. So I'll start with a story, and this story is going to go to an economic principle. So this is a real story. Ages and ages before, in England there was a tree, and under the tree met two people, a farmer and a baker. Okay, now try understanding, both of them are there to make a deal. What is the job of a baker? Is to bake cookies, and the farmer to sell wheat. Now there's a farmer who's about to sell wheat, and there's a baker who's there to buy the wheat. Now what would the baker want? The baker would definitely want he gets the wheat, he sells the wheat at the highest price, and the baker gets in the lowest price. They both have their own set of what do we say, contention to participate in a deal. So whenever you are in a trade, what do you want? You want your maximum profit. Call it Nash theory, game theory, whatever you call it. Similarly, the baker wants to sell, a baker wants to buy the wheat at maximum, at the cheapest price. The wheat farmer wants to sell the wheat at the highest price. Are we clear till here? Now they come and they make a transaction. So they the farmer comes and says that I will sell for 100 rupees per kg, and the baker agrees to buying at 100 rupees per kg. Now there are going to be certain scenarios which are not under any one of those control of the two parties. Now let's take, it's 2020 and corona occurs. Okay, and now he's totally out of resources and the farmer has nothing. Now imagine this situation when there is no proper harvesting, and suddenly the supply of wheat in the market has almost vanished. Are we cool till here? Now what happens is, since there's no supply and we have a little amount of wheat only available, which was the buffer stock of the last year, now the same wheat which used to be at 100 rupees kg will be at 200 rupees kg. This is the basic principle of demand and supply, right? So now the very baker who bought it for 100 rupees kg and produced 5 cookies, arbitrary numbers, 5 cookies, will now buy the same thing and will make 5 cookies at 200 rupees of the same amount of wheat. So the wheat which costed, the cookie which cost you 10 rupees will now more or less cost you 20 rupees. Now what does, now this will have a chain reaction, not only to the baker and the wheat farmer, but to the market. Try keeping up, because this will make a lot of sense in the end. So now the baker is going to sell the same cookie of 10 rupees at 20 rupees. Now what will this do to the market? There'll be some architect, there'll be some salesman, and they have kids who want to buy cookie. So now, since 10 ka 20, the same 10 rupees cookie is now at 20, people will not buy, people will refrain, right? Now what this does is, since there's less of demand, the baker will not want to buy more wheat because there's no use of that wheat. See, it's a chain reaction which goes on. Now since there's no demand in the market for the cookies, what will he do? He will sell out the people. He'll lay them off. He'll be like, we don't need 10 bakers, 2 bakers can do that much work as per the market's demand. Can I get a thumbs up if people are keeping up till here? Okay, right. So great. So now the baker will now start laying off people, and imagine that person who got laid off also has kids. Now since he doesn't have a salary, he can't buy a house from the architect. So now the architect doesn't have income in his house, and he doesn't have income, so he can't buy his son a cookie from the baker. Now these are only 3-4 parties involved. That's why it looks very simple. But the very moment you involve many parties in the whole economy, you involve every individual, this multiplies at a very, very large scale. And what was the causing factor of this whole risk? So this is similar to recession, which comes, okay, how unemployment goes in a downward spiral and causes recession. So if this makes sense to you, you understand that this whole cause was started at one thing, which was out of anyone's control. Here it can be corona, the next year it can be a bad rainfall, and one thing will lead to another, and it will be a chain reaction, and this thing won't be in anyone's control. Now here, let's go back in time and meet under the same tree with the baker and the farmer. Now here's a tweak. The same baker and the farmer now enter into a transaction wherein they shake hands and they say that I do understand you sell at 100 rupees per kg, but let's go and make a deal that it looks that it might not rain this year. So we enter into a futures contract that no matter what, I will sell at 150, you will buy at 150. Now, this all might not make sense. Where is the stock market? Where is coding coming in? But it will make sense, trust me. So now this is what happened. They enter a futures contract. Now let's bring probability in this. How did they decide that it should be 150? Because it might rain, it might not rain. Now imagine a situation, they decided at 120 rupees per kg because the meteorological department said that there's a less likelihood of rain this year. So they said, since it is less likely, there's less risk, therefore less profit. And then they decided on a deal of 120. But now, God bless Bengal, suppose such situation arise and there was suddenly an unforeseen situation, and now the crops are like gone. Now, had they entered a futures deal at 120 rupees, the deal is a deal, it's a contract. So no matter what, he will have to sell at 120 rupees per kg. Now, suppose a cyclone came and destroyed the whole crop. What is the projected price? 200 rupees. Because anytime the crops are disaster, we are taking the value to be 200. But since they entered a contract at 120, no matter what, the farmer has to sell at 120. Vice versa. Suppose the meteorological department says that there's a good chance of raining, so there's a high risk of the crop failing. They make a deal of 180 rupees per kg. But it's a sunny day and it doesn't rain and the crops are harvested fine. Now, the baker will have to buy at 180 and not at 100. So in this whole situation, if you use various permutation and combination, you will realize that in the either party will have a profit based on probability. And it's all risk. You're always taking a chance based on something which you cannot control. Now, this is where inception comes in. Like a dream in a dream, we are talking about a contract whose price is being derived by something which is not in their control. So the price of the contract, that it will be of 120 kg, is a derivation of the price of the wheat in the market, which is being influenced by something which neither the baker nor the farmer can control. Are we clear till here? Like I just need regular reactions to like the story. Did the story make sense? Because the story is just a story for now. It will connect in the end. All right. This was one thing, and this whole the contract that they entered is called a futures contract, and it's a derivative product. Now, what we are dealing with today is called options, and now is where the story begins. All right. So let's get our hands dirty. You are going to buy a house. Okay, all of you are thinking of going to buy a house, and let's take one city. Let's take Mumbai, for example, and Mumbai outskirts we are going to buy. Now, what are the things that you will take care of when you're about to buy a property? You will see at the locality, you will see what are the kind of infrastructures around, and you will gauge a price for that asset. Now, I'll say the term asset over here because even stocks are asset, or any investment that you make in the stock market is an asset. So make an analogy to the house as a stock, and that's how it will make sense in the end. So for now, let's buy a house. So we go and we think of buying a house, and what are the parameters that you look at? You look at what are the news possible, is there a government tender coming up or anything. Now suppose you go and there's a builder. Okay, now what do? What does the builder say? That you pay me front on upfront some amount of money and the house is booked for you, right? But if tomorrow you do not want to buy the house, your premium is gone, but you are not obligated to buy the house. You have paid a premium to the builder, but you're not obligated to buy the house. Now, similarly, coming to the derivative product of options, it works in the similar way. right? So if it's like buying a house. So suppose you think, let's take Reliance for example. Reliance is on a streak of deals right now, okay? And suppose I want to buy a stock of Reliance, okay? But I'm not sure that by the next month end, if it's going to break its lifetime high. So instead of investing all my money in it, what I do, I take a certain amount of money, I pay a person the premium, and now that person is obligated to sell me Reliance at the strike price that I have paid. And no matter what the fluctuation, he will have to sell me at that. It's like the baker and the farmer situation. Now, what I'll do is I will try to give you examples with live market status so that we have a much better idea. I'll be sharing a screen, okay? So let's go over here. Right. Is the screen visible to all the people? Can I get a reaction, please? Yeah, right. So let's take this for example. This is the Nifty chart, okay? And this is how Nifty is right now. Okay. Yeah. So this is Nifty chart. And if you look at a long term, we are seeing that there was this downfall over here, and it's picking up and it's going down, and you are not sure that if it's going to go up or it's going to go down. Now it's a very volatile market, and what I can do is, suppose I go over here. Now this is a May contract. So again, whenever you enter a contract, there's always a deadline, right? So when the farmer and baker entered into a contract, they decided on one day that the farmer will buy that much of wheat. So let's take this for example. Now we are discussing Nifty over here, and this contract of option has an expiry of 28 May. We also have these many dates of contracts. So suppose me and somebody else is entering into contract. So what we do is we decide on a strike price. Now these strike prices are like the price that the farmer and the baker decided on. See, so if you decided 120, that will be lesser the price. If you decided on 150, that is more the price. How do you decide that? Similar way, you gauge a house. Is there a government project coming up? So there's a greater likelihood that the price will increase. Or if it's in a prime locality, or if there are frequent concerts, then yeah, it tends to be at a higher price. So this is a very basic module of options, and this was just to give you a taste of what it looks like, but we still have a lot to discuss. So we'll get into options. So one last story before we get in the numbers and technicalities. Insurance. Insurance is one of the most thriving industries, right? How does the insurance work? I buy an Audi of 50 lakh today. I wish I could, but let's say in dream, you can dream. I bought a Audi of 50 lakh rupees today, and I'm a very reckless driver, right? So I am afraid that my dad thinks I'm a reckless driver. I'm not, by the way, but he's afraid that I might, just blow his money and like make go meet an accident. So what he does is he goes to LIC, and he goes to LIC and he buys the insurance. Now what does the insurance does is insurance takes a timeline, and it say that by this date end, if anything happens to your car, we are going to cover everything. Similar works with your health insurance. Similarly, it works with any insurance you take, okay? Your mobile insurance, your airport luggage insurance, every insurance works on the same way. But there's a reason why health insurance is costlier than your mobile insurance and a lot of things, right? Now, suppose I bought an Audi of 50 lakh. I go to LIC, my dad goes to LIC, and the LIC person says that for the 1 year, you pay 1 lakh. But the 1 lakh you pay is upfront. So my dad takes out a checkbook, he pays 1 lakh rupees, and now I am covered for 1 year. Anything happens to my car, LIC is paying the whole bill, right? Now imagine the whole market is filled with so many cars. And how many cars do you think actually meet with an accident, are actually covered into insurance? So imagine if there's a sample set of 1,000 cars, if even many of you have learned about testing of hypothesis, and you would know. So let's take 2% of cars actually meeting an accident. LIC is taking 98% of premium upfront. So it's basically out of 100 sample set, it is taking 98 lakh rupees upfront for 1 year of time. And that too, in a 1 year, I don't think they'll meet with an accident. So 1 year is a very short period of time. And there's again a mechanism how you price the premium. So an insurance company will take upfront cost, and there's a very less probability for a car to meet with an accident. So they collect a 1,000 crores and they pay a 50 lakh or 1 crore in the insurance. That's all they do. And that's how insurance business always makes money. Now, how is this relevant to the options market? The options are exactly insurance. Options is a tool which is used as a hedging mechanism or as an insurance. So now I'll explain you. Let's dive right into it. This might sound very haywire, and if it's okay if it's not making sense to you right now. There are two things in an option. Okay, so there's something called a call option and there's something called a put option. A call option is something, if you call, that means it's going to go up. If you say something put, that means you're betting it's going to go down. Okay, now pay attention to the screen that I'm saying. So suppose Nifty is 9,000. So the current price of Nifty is at 9,039. Okay, let's go here. Current Nifty price is 9,039. The contract is of 28 May 2020. It's totally fine if you're not understanding right now, just go with the flow. So we have a contract, the baker and so a baker and a farmer has a contract which ends on 28 May. 9,039 is the current price. I think that before 28 May, this might reach 8,500. But my friend Samad thinks that, Nifty is going in, it will go up from here. So he thinks that, it might go at 9,300. Right? Now, what I do, you see, if I think that is going to go down, I will buy a put option. And if Samad thinks that it's going to go up, he will buy a call option. This might be difficult, so just give me a reaction if you understood what call and put paraphrases to. So if I think the market's going to go up, I buy a call. If I think market's going to go down, I buy a put. It's pretty simple till here, right? Now, now let's compare this to the insurance thing, right? So if somebody is buying an insurance, there's always going to be a seller of the insurance, right? So suppose now let's not get to the seller's part. We are buying the insurance, for example. Okay, so let's take 9,000. This is the strike price. Now, if I think that the market's going to go up, there has to be a cost of the contract. So suppose 100 rupees kg was the cost of wheat, but they entered the contract at 120 rupees. So the 20 was the added premium to the risk of whether being in their probability or not, raining or not raining, right? So that extra 20 you have to pay. Now, if suppose the farmer and baker entered in a contract of 120 rupees per kg, and if the price rises to 50 rupees per kg, the farmer has to sell at 120. So the baker is at a profit of 30 rupees per kg. Similarly, the 20 is the added premium, sorry. So similarly, if the strike price is 9,000, we look at the last traded price, which is 137, right? So I have to pay 137 rupees extra, 137 rupees extra on the call side. And if Nifty then goes from 9,000 to 9,137, that is my break even. And beyond that, as much as the price high, that's the profit Samarth takes home. Similarly, if I think it's going to be 8,500, I buy a put. But the put's price is 95 rupees, right? So 9,000 minus 95, let's take it 100. It goes to 8,900. I'm betting at 8,500. The premium I have to pay is still 8,900. The 400 rupees, if and only if the market touches, the 400 rupees is the take home profit. Can I get a reaction if this made sense? And please enter in the chat box if there's something that you are not understanding or if there's something that you want me to explain even further. Right. So that was how the mechanism is. Now let's deviate from the story a little. How many of you have that one friend, one family friend, one friend ka friend, chacha, batija, or some that one guy who somehow lost all his money in the stock market? I mean, just give me a reaction. You know somebody who either died, suicide, or lost all his money and destroyed the family. Everybody knows that one guy, right? Now, just tell me something. If you invest 1 lakh rupees in Reliance, which is costing, whose current market price is, I don't know, 1500 rupees, if you buy all the shares, to lose all your money, you have to go at 0 rupees. That means to lose all your money in the stock market, that company has to close. How did that guy lose all his money? And that too, those values are like crore rupees and 10 crore rupees. I mean, you don't even have that much money. That is where the derivative market comes in. There's something called a margin and there's something called leverage, right? So what happens is, if you look at this thing, I'll go again, share screen, National Stock Exchange and share. Yeah. So I'll tell you how that uncle lost all his money. So let's take Reliance, for example. Okay. We go at Reliance and let's take a simple call. Uh, let's take 1440 is the price. Okay. Now, do you see this ask quantity, this ask QTY, or this ask QTY in the puts? So there's something called a lot size. You cannot buy just 175. So see, the price is 22, right? Does that mean that you can pay 22 rupees and buy a lot? No, you cannot, right? So there's something called a ask quantity. A quantity is the minimum lot size that you have to buy of Reliance. So if I buy this, which is 505, I basically have to pay 505 into the current price, which is 22, which is 11,110 rupees at the strike price, right? Now, if I pay that much and the bet is not in my favor, I lose all the money, right? And you know what is this 505? This 505 is actual Reliance share. This is the actual 505 shares of Reliance. Now imagine this. I'm giving you the power to buy 505 shares of Reliance at 11,110 rupees. But do you know what is the actual value of 505 shares of Reliance? That will be 505 into the current price of Reliance. What is the current price of Reliance? 1,433. 1,433, which means 7,23,665 rupees. This derivative instrument gave you a leverage of buying something worth 7,23,665 in just 11,000 rupees. I don't know if this since I trade in this is very normal for me. I'm not sure how many of you are comfortable. Can you give me a reaction again if this made sense, the concept of leverage? Just give me a thumbs up. I'll explain again. Hi, Shavan. Uh, I'll just dig in again. Basically, this derivative option gave me the power to buy something worth 8 lakh rupees in just 12,000 rupees, right? Now, again, I'll link this back to the farmer and baker concept. Okay. Now, if the meteorological department says that it is very highly unlikely to rain today, unlikely to rain in the coming 6 months, then why would they give a high risk? Then why would they increase the price of the contract, right? Something which has a high risk will have a high reward. This is a very basic business principle. You take demand supply, you take high risk high reward, you mix them and you have your answer, right? So similarly, the probability of Reliance to be reaching 1426 is relatively higher than it going to 1360. Wait a second. Yeah. So the probability, so Reliance is trading currently at, let's say, 14,033. Now, if a stock is trading as 14,033, it has more probability of heading to 1440 than going to 1287, right? So the price of the contract of 1287 is just 1 rupee, while the price of 1440 is 25 rupees. Does it make sense? So more the farther you are, the less is the likelihood of that contract to reach that strike price or the stock to reach that level. The cheaper is the same option for you. Now let's correlate this to the insurance policy, right? So let's take, for example, if you have a car, let's say, let's go to the Audi example again. So I bought an Audi, and tell me what is more probable of it to meet an accident. What is the probability? Will it meet an accident in 1 month, or will it meet an accident in 1 year? It's pretty obvious that there's a higher probability that it might meet an accident in 1 year than in 1 month. 1 month is shorter time. That's why the premium will be less. Drop a text if this was not clear, because this was a concept which I had a lot of problem understanding. Okay, I'm assuming everything is going fine. So I'll be revising in the end again. Ambarishan, I understand you came late. I'll try to like join all the things again. So right now we are talking about options as in like a contract wherein there are two parties. One is a buyer, one is a seller. It works as an insurance mechanism wherein you go to LIC and you buy an insurance, and LIC pays it if it meets with an accident. I'll get in detail. I'll get a revision in the end. So let's go back to the pricing. So the farther is the date, the farther is the price, the less likely it is to hit by the end of this contract, right? So we were talking about the contract ends at 28 May, right? This is 28 May. So in the coming 3 days, this contract is going to end. Tell me, is there a chance? What are the odds that Reliance will ever touch 1240? Like, what are the odds? Nothing. And that's why it's costing me only 1 rupee of LTP, which is just 505 rupees. But, 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 here's the catch. Suppose, let's take the price of, let's take Reliance. Reliance is a very good example. Let's take 1300. It's trading at 1440, and you know it's very highly unlikely to reach 1300. But I'm a gambler, and I'm like, let's take the odds. Let's play with luck. I buy this 1.25 rupees contract, one lot, which will cost me around like 520 rupees. Suppose tomorrow morning, Ambani wakes up and he says, you know what? I'm sorry. There was this attack on one of our units. And, you know, or suppose let's take another example, crude prices. I don't know. They say that we are stopping crude production for the next 1 year, or there's some random event which none of us could have predicted, and we see a panic selling in the market, and suddenly Reliance start falling like crazy, and it goes to 1200, right? I invested 1.25, which is 520 rupees, and trust me, I'll be making over a lakh on the same bet, right? Try to get the intensity of that. I would make 1 lakh rupees on an investment of 500 rupees, which is crazy. But then again, you have to think like an insurance seller. What are the odds that it will happen? It's just like insurance, but there's always a chance that it might happen. And if it happens, well, I'm a millionaire. You know, if I invest the right amount of money, I might be a millionaire by tomorrow. There's a counter to it. Let's come to the uncle who sold the house and was on the verge of selling the family property. Anywhere in the market, if there's a buyer, there has to be a seller, right? So let's come to the same contract again. If somebody's buying this at 1 rupee, there has to be somebody who's selling it at 1 rupee, right? So in the market, there will be an insurance buyer and there'll be an insurance seller. So if somebody sells it at 1 rupee, right? And if this goes beyond that, then the person who sold me the put option at 1 rupee will have to bear the whole loss, which means this guy, this 1 rupee guy, was the seller. So what happened was, thanks. Yeah. So if you look at this, okay, I'll recap again. If there was an insurance seller who sold me this at 1 rupee, now what happens in insurance? I go to LIC office, I pay 1 lakh, and the guy collects 1 lakh up front. So the moment we entered in the transaction, that guy took my 500 rupees and went home. And even if this goes up or down, he's not liable to pay me back, right? Similarly, when you go to LIC, if your car if your car does not meet an accident, LIC is not liable to pay your premium back. Similarly, that guy took it and he's not liable to pay me back. But just in case the car meets with an accident, which is Reliance tanks and goes to 1200, who takes the loss? If the car meets with an accident, LIC pays the loss. Similarly, the person who I had a transaction with over here will have to bear the whole loss. That's why there's this popular saying, an option buyer has unlimited profit and limited risk of loss, but an option seller has unlimited risk and limited profit. I repeat, if you look at this example of 1 rupee, there was a limited profit. All he could make was just 1 rupee because he sold it at that price and he's out of the market. But the potential of loss or risk was unlimited. Then the question that you should be asking is, why would somebody enter a market selling if there's unlimited risk? Because probability again. What are the odds that this will ever happen? And that is basically how the derivative market functions, the transaction. Now, there are a couple of pointers that I'll be going through. I cannot delve completely into this because there's a lot of things. See, you see all these columns over here: open interest, change in open interest, volume, implied volatility. All these things mean a lot. But since this was a very introduction to what option looks like, this was just basically it. And I would like to delve furthermore, but let's come to the technical part of it and why this whole story that I told you is relevant to most of you. Now, most of you out here have some background in coding. Like, just give me a thumbs up. How many of you are into coding or something, or are remotely close to coding, or are full time into coding? Just give me a thumbs up, please. Yeah. Yeah. So I see a lot of you, right? Now, why? Now I'm going to share with you something. Okay. And this is my personal data. So let's go over here. Right. Now, there are a couple of things that you need to know. The person who's selling has a potential of unlimited risk, right? See, I have only 15 minutes. So this one is the gold. This is what you have been waiting for so long. Okay. Now, this is where the gold comes in. Try understanding this. The person who's selling the option has unlimited risk, right? He has everything to lose. That means people like you and me are not the option sellers. That's for sure. The people who are actually selling such heavy amount of options are financial institutions, mutual funds, banks. This is the big money. So, whenever you are playing in the options market, you have to think like a chess player. You are the one who's buying an option, but you have to think like the person who's selling, because that person has everything to lose. Those are the powerful people. Those are the money makers and money movers in the market, right? Those are the big banks. Those are the ones who are running, because people like me and you have barely 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 30 lakh rupees capital at max. They play in thousands of crores. They can move the market, right? So you have to think as an option seller. Now imagine this. If I could give you right now, and this is gold, okay? This is for everybody out there. Even if you're not trading in options, try this for yourself in the stock market. What if I told you I can predict the market with a 99% accuracy for the coming 1 month? Are you interested? I need a thumbs up with that, because this is something which you are never going to find anywhere on the internet, right? If I tell you a secret to predicting the market with 99% accuracy, everybody's going to be happy, right? Now, here's the thing. If you have options data, if you have the derivative markets data, and you know how to process the data, how to crunch the numbers and find the gold out, finding the needle out of the haystack, you are going to make big bucks, right? Now, here's the catch. First of all, disclaimer, do not put your actual money and do this. Observe, backtest a lot. I'm not preaching this, but I'm telling you the trader's secret, which nobody's ever going to tell you. And also, do not try this. This is like the disclaimer: do these stunts on your own. Do not try this homeschool, blah 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 blah, because there are a lot of concepts that I have not explained. There's a lot of maths behind it. So do not try this. This is a very superficial thing. If any of you have doubt, contact me. I'll be more than happy to explain the maths behind it. Do not perform the stunt. Now, coming back to it, like a chess player, think what the option seller is playing, how he is playing his move, because he has the most to lose and he is more powerful than you. Now here's the screen. Okay. So there's something called open interest, right? This is this column over here. Sorry, the first column, OI. OI is an open interest. What is an open interest? Open interest basically tells how many contracts are open in the market in this moment. So let's take all the participants over here who are right now in this uh, meeting. I'll take you as example. Okay. So let's take the first deal. I'm a buyer and somebody has to be a seller. So let's take Shawan, my friend over here. And me and Shawan enter a trade. Okay. So I'm a buyer and Shawan is a seller. So I buy one stock, Shawan sells me one stock. There's one transaction which is open in the market. That makes the open interest 1. Okay. Coming to another deal, Sarthak enters a deal with Sanjay. Sarthak is a seller, Sanjay is a buyer. Now there are 2 deals in the market. Open interest 2. Now what happens is the price rises, fluctuates, whatever happens. I think that I do not want to participate in this market. I'm done. So what I do, I move out. I'm moving out of my position and Shruti is entering the deal with Sharvan right now. Right? I'm moving out of the deal and Shruti is moving in the deal in place of me. I want some of you to just make a guess. What would the open interest in the market be? Just add me in the chat. Just type in the chat. What do you think? So first was me and Sharvan, open interest 1. Sarthak and Sanjay also enter deal. Now open interest is 2. Now I am leaving the market and Shruti is entering instead of me. What do you think should be the open interest? Just give me a few guesses in the chat. Like, just let me know. Or if I'm missing something, do you want me to repeat it? Because if you understand this, man, it's going to blow your mind. So I want you guys to tell me in the chat if there's something which you're not understanding, or just make a guess. What would the open interest be? I repeat, me and Sharvan entered one outstanding trade, open interest 1. Another part of the world, Sarthak and Sanjay enter the deal for the same stock, open interest 2. Now I want to take my money out. I'm out of the market. But instead of me, Shruti is entering as a new participant in the market and she's taking my place in the deal with Sharvan. So Sharvan is still the seller, but the buyer is not me and now Shruti is entering. Can I get some response in the group chat? Okay, Shruti, 2, 2, 2. Exactly. The open interest is still 2. But suppose if Tanishq is a new participant in the market and now he's entering as a new participant and he opens a trade with Sharvan again. So now, though the number of participants is increased by plus, is possibly net same, since Tanishq has added a new contract with Sharvan, the now open interest becomes 3. Imagine Tanishq enters another contract with Sarthak, open interest becomes 4. Number of participants in the market remain the same, but the open interest increases because the number of contracts increases. So open interest has basically nothing to do with the number of participants or anything. It is more relevant to number of contracts opened. Now I'll be sharing the screen and tell you why it's important to all of you right now. So open interest basically tells what is the how hot that strike price is or how hot that stock is. So let's go on NSE website itself and let's go to live market, and suppose we have Reliance over here, right? This is Reliance, and if you look at open interest, there's 4,545. That means at the last in this uh, Reliance this quote, there are 4,500 and 4,545 contracts open. That means there are 4,545 contracts which are open. Do not look at change in open interest for now. I'll explain what that is later. Open interest is 4,545. That means itne contracts are open in the market. Now let's get back to this. So more the open interest in the market, hotter the stock is, more people are interested. That's why there's open interest. Why would you enter a trade only when you're interested in the stock, right? You won't go buy ACC when you can buy Reliance, because Reliance is trending right now. So you will definitely want to make more profit, and that's why you enter into Reliance. Now, can I get with how many? Did you guys understand open interest concept? Just give me a fast thumbs up, right? That was open interest. Now imagine this: in an open interest, there's always a buyer and there's always a seller. When we are talking about options, who has the most to lose? The seller, right? Because he's the big money. That means if I know where is the highest amount of open interest, and I can some way I can find out what is the seller thinking, will I not be able to tell where will that big money direct the market to? It's like a center of gravity. It's like magnet. Money is like a magnet. It will drive the price. So if there's a way I can tell where exactly is the big money moving, I can tell where the market will be heading next. Now that's what I'm going to share over here. Now, if you look at this, this is quite a prevalent theory, but there's not much research over this. It's called a Max Pain theory. Max Pain, not the game, but Max Pain theory is maximum pain theory. So if you look at it, if how does the insurance money, which is the option seller, get his like premium? That's because you are buying the insurance, right? So what would a seller want? He would want that more the premium I can collect, with less the accident caused in the market, right? So as a seller, you want more people to pay you money. That means you want to be aggressively selling, right? And you also want to be selling and collect the maximum premium possible. So tell me this: if I can collect 22 rupees premium, why would I collect a 10 paisa premium, right? You would want to find the optimal point where you collect the maximum, maximum profit with the least amount of risk. Now, if you look at this whole chart over here, just two data points can tell you what are the odds of something happening. Think like option seller. You would be creating maximum open interest in the places where you think is the highest probability for a person to lose. So if you look at this is the Nifty chart. This is the Nifty's option chain. This is sorry, we are at Reliance right now. We'll go at Nifty. Yeah, we go at Nifty. Yeah. So this is Nifty's option chain. Now, if you look at this, at 9,000, there are 1,663,575 contracts in the call side. That means if you add, there are 1.6 million people involved. No, 1.6 million contracts just at the 9,000 strike price. Now you cannot tell if this is option buyer or option seller. You cannot tell that. Definitely you cannot tell, because it's just a number. It involves both option buyer, option seller, but you do not know which aggressive parties out there. So let's not get there. Okay, now here's one Excel sheet that I have, and this was an analysis that I did in April. Okay, uh, firstly, can everybody see the Excel sheet? Just give me a thumbs up fast. Is the Excel data visible? Yeah, right. So let me explain the pain theory. Okay, and this is a chart which I made observing the market. On 1st of April, what I do is I add the okay. Wait, do we have something? Shavan, is it not visible? Is it visible now? I've shared the screen. Okay, wait a second. I'll stop share. I'll share again. Now is it visible? Cool. Right. So this is the Excel sheet that I made for my April trading session, and now I'll just break it down for you. So what happens is on 1st of April, Nifty was, so what I do is I take the open interest at the call and I find the open interest at put. What did I say about open interest? Higher the open interest, hotter that stock, hotter that strike price. The market is, very hot over there. Everybody wants to rush over there. So either buyers are buying there because they think the market's going to go rise, or either sellers are shorting heavy because they think that it's not going to go there. So if we look at it, Nifty was consistently highest open interest was at 8,500, 8,000, 8,500, 8,000. Now, according to option pain, as an option seller, you would want the buyer to have the maximum loss, cause him the maximum pain, because that's how you will collect the maximum premium. So if you can find the maximum open interest, that will give you a range of where the maximum, players are. Now I'll share it again. And if you look at it, I made a note observation over here, which was as on 7th April, due to sudden up move in the market, I see that heavy shorts created on the put, which means that the market will be bullish in the short term, comprising of major chunks of the OI created. And then I updated that the analysis was on point. It was a premium meeting day and Nifty was range bound in such a small range. Now I'll tell you what this exactly means and how I did it and how I did it right. So we will go at NSE website, right? Now you have to understand that because of the sudden market drop, the market is highly volatile right now. So the numbers might be very, haywire. But in general, if you look at this, okay, these are the prices, these are the open interest. What I want you to do is, if you take now, try to find where is the highest buildup. So if you see 9,000, 9,100, 9,200, 9,300, 9,400, 9,500, all of these have immense amount of open interest. On the put side, we have these high buildup of open interest. This tells us that these strike price, which is 9,000, 8,800, 8,500, have the highest amount of open interest buildup. Open interest buildup, matlab there are more open contracts available. That means if a contract is available, that means there has to be a big money over there who thinks that this is highly likely. Now again, there are a lot of factors such as implied volatility and premium decay. So let's go to June, for example. Let's see what is the market thinking from June's perspective. So if you look at it June, you won't see that much of activity over here, but you still see that 9,500 has almost 1 million and 10,000 has 1.3 million of open interest. That means somewhere people think that the market will be touching 10,000 by the next month. But at the same time, but, there's always a but. At the same time, you will see that there's 1 million buildup at 8,000. That means the market is really very confused as to will it go to 8,000 or will it go to 10,000. But 10,000 ka pagda bhari hai. 10,000 is more likely to be seen in the coming next month. Now, this is not a prediction because, as I said, do not perform these stunts because there's a lot of factors coming in. Now, if you see there's something called IV over here, right? Implied volatility. And I just have 3 minutes, so I'll try to make it as brief as possible. Implied volatility is basically when you studied stats in second year or first year or third year, there's something called a standard deviation. And there's something called a bell curve. And a standard deviation 2 of step 2 covers 99% of the bell curve, right? If not, then go study stats. It's very important. Now, implied volatility basically plots what is the possibility of that strike to range, right? So if there's a high volatility, the curve will be very different. And if it's a low volatility, it will be narrower. Why? Because the probability of it to go wide is less. That means the volatility is low. If the volatility is high, that means the market will fluctuate at a wider range. Now, if you look at the IV over here, the IV has a percentage, right? 23.93, 24.79, And as you go high, the IV is progressively increasing. This IV more or less jolts down to the percentage of change that that particular contract or underlying asset will have in the coming 1 year. I don't know if that makes sense. So I'll be taking you to another Excel sheet that I have, and give me a minute. Okay, yeah. So this is share screen. Okay. If you look at this formula, look at over here. Like this is normal distribution log of the cells divided by CRT. It's a very complicated mathematical formula, right? It takes the normal distribution into account. But what this basically means is that if I know the implied volatility of a stock, I can tell that this is the maximum that it can go, because standard deviation to curve is 99% of the curve, right? So if I know the standard two deviation, I know the implied volatility. I can be 10%, 99% accurate in predicting where the market is. Now I know this all was a lot of information, and I couldn't. This is so much of study that I cannot make it. I am short of time. I'll have to stop right now. But this is so much of data that I hope I could do justice to just introducing the concept of what options are. There's a lot more to it. There's intrinsic value, extrinsic value, there's time decay, there's premium decay. You know, just giving us example. Suppose it's a 1 year insurance. The closer you get to insurance, the less value of the insurance get. Similarly, if you buy a contract, the closer it is to a deadline, the faster it will start decaying. There's intrinsic value, there's extrinsic value, there's delta, gamma, theta, the change in the price of the premium. So there's a lot of it. But that, always take the example of the farmer and the baker to understand what a derivative market is, a derivative instrument is, and never forget the example that I showed of how you can leverage by buying a 7 lakh rupees thing by paying just 11,000 rupees premium. And that is how that uncle lost all his money, based on leverage and not using probability. Because always remember, friends, in a business of insurance, it's always LIC who will win. No matter how good luck you have, you might win a lottery once in 1,000 years, but at the end of the day, LIC is the one who will win. Similarly, it's always the option writer who will win. If you can think like an option writer, and there are a lot of data points more, and if you can crunch the numbers right, that's how you win. Now, before I leave the last 2 minutes, I want to tell why this is important to every coder out there. You saw the stats, the numbers, the Excel data. I'm personally myself building a trading system using Python. There are technical analysis, there's charts, there are a lot of things, right, that you put in there. If you understand the derivative pricing itself and you understand this, you can build a trading system. Uh, you saw the Excel sheet that I did, right? I make it automated using VLOOKUP and macros, and I get a data signal every day myself that if today is a good day to trade or if it's not. Now, what it does is it narrows down my chances of loss and make me not a big rich, but a consistently profitable trader. And that's why I would always urge people, even if you're not into stock market or something, go read about it. It's a fascinating place, and I guess the scope in the future is unlimited. So, also one case study. Airline industries is highly volatile, and it's a loss making business. This is a true story. In 2004, when crude prices were at surge, Virgin Airlines almost blew the whole American airlines industry. You know how they bought a futures contract of crude at a very low price, and though the prices surged, they got to buy the crude at a very low rate because they had a futures contract in crude. And you know what, every other airline had to pay a high charge because the market was there. But since they had a futures contract, just like the baker and the farmer, they made profits and their airline prices stayed the same. It's a fascinating case study. And I guess that's how I'm out of time. I would be ending it over here. Hit me up if you guys have any doubt, or if there was something I missed out on. I know this was a lot of information and I missed out on a couple of points and data points. Feel free to contact me, and I hope it made a sense to a lot of you. If there's a doubt, I'll be more than happy to answer.